Well, this morning we gained a greater understanding of which occupations are most at risk from COVID-19. New data out from the Office for National Statistics shows that male taxi drivers may well be one of the groups with the highest death rates. Well, joining me now is Steve McNamara. He's General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. He's in central London. Thank you for joining us, Mr. McNamara. What do you make of this analysis? Are your members in greater danger?
It's very difficult. We've done a quick analysis of the data that was provided this morning. There's lots of factors that need to be taken into account. Firstly, taxi drivers tend to be older. You don't get many 21-year-old taxi drivers. Most cab drivers are over 40, many in their 50s and 60s. So the demographics come into play. Also, the stats are countrywide, so it's very difficult to quite figure out what's happening. In the big metropolitan cities, if you talk London, Manchester, Liverpool, the black cabs with a petition have been sealed off. They've been designed with plastics that are easy to clean and sterilise. We think the figures are much, much lower. The problem is, in an ordinary saloon car, it's impossible to self-distance. You're sitting virtually cheek by jowl with the driver. One of the failings here is we've constantly been asking the DfT, and I know that Transport for London and Transport for the North have been doing the same, is for guidance on what vehicles are safe and what vehicles are not. And the DfT have just shied away from answering it. I've written to Grant Shapps, no answer. They're just not telling us. Common sense dictates that a black cab with a petition who actually completely separate from the driver, there's not even any shared airspace, and the ventilation systems are different, has to be cleaner and safer than any other form of public transport. In a saloon car, we're not so sure, and we do need that guidance.
I mean, that would be my assumption, but it's interesting that bus drivers have reported a high incidence of fatalities, and they have a screen around them as well, don't they, as just like taxi drivers?
No, it's a very different screen. Firstly, when you stand next to a bus driver, when you go to tap in or pay your fare around the country, you're a few inches away. The screens tend to have voice holes in them, and they're not airtight. There's gaps all around it. So and a succession of people passing that air gap, paying and walking onto the bus are obviously circulating the virus. In a taxi, it's very different. You get in the back, it's completely sealed. The vehicle was designed for Friday night drunks. It wasn't designed for a virus, but the hard plastics and the stuff that are not so aesthetically appealing are much easier to clean. Saloon cars are designed with comfort and touchy-feely, and so they're not as easy to clean. We've had a theory for some time that one infected driver in a saloon car working at a hospital could in fact take out an entire NHS trust in an afternoon, were the vehicle or the driver to become infected. We've raised these concerns, as I say, with the DfT, with the civil servants of the DfT, and as I say, we know that TfL and Transport for the North have done the same, but they're just refusing to give any guidance or any advice on it.
Well, I have to say, we don't appear in London to have any information on, Uber drivers or how it's affecting them in their saloon cars. But as far as your members are concerned, black cab drivers, although, of course, as we know, many of them aren't black these days, what is your advice? Should they now be getting out on the streets or not? Because there has been a big drop in cab availability in central London.
Yeah, what we're saying to our members is common sense. You seal the petition. So, the glass petition you've seen, it has got a little money hole in it. We say that you seal that, and that completely isolates the front of the vehicle from the rear. We advise that you clean the vehicle after every trip, and we advise that you take contactless payments only with a contactless machine in the back. So there needs to be, there's an intercom, so there's no need to open the window between the front and the back, and there's no need for any social contact at all. It's not the sort of thing cab drivers do. We like to interact with people. It's what we're famous for. But now we're doing it over an intercom and through a sealed petition. That's our advice to our members.
OK, so if you're taking a cab, it's contactless from now on. Let's take a look at some of today's other stories.